right, so this is kind of part 3 of the casino tour. We found really interesting things, sort of like those are stratosphere, very delicate glass pieces that were given. Here I've got some Casino Hall of Fame. Robert Stack was kind of a famous actor. He was in Unsolved Mysteries in the 1980s, pretty popular TV show. Did a bunch of segments on Vegas, but we actually acquired a pretty large collection. As a part of the museum owned, ironically, a lot of these vintage photographs, and they were sold, I believe, at an auction a while back. I just don't know if it was a Julian's auction or what, but I think it was probably a Julian's auction. These are some really fantastic early photos. I don't know a lot about the Matador. I'm assuming it was probably a TV program, but just the framing and the pictures. I mean, can you imagine that? This is such a really cool thing to have in your house. This is some pieces of art, I think, that came out of Caesars. This one is really interesting. This Robert Stack. What's cool, he looks like Don Draper from Mad Men, which is really weird. When I first saw this, you got Charles Bronson over there. I figured out, I'm just thinking, like, man, is this guy like, at first I was like, that doesn't look like the Mad Men dude, but yeah, so it kind of looked like him. Here's some really unbelievable, we think this is probably some of the more valuable pieces. We actually know this is probably the most valuable part of our collection. I'm not going to get to the trumpet right yet, but, here you have Louis Armstrong. This painting, and these are 3 paintings, these are original paintings by Sabori, who is basically a really well-known muralist who was commissioned to redo Ellis Island in New York, redo a lot of the murals that were in the Ellis Island facility during that restoration. So the fact that we have 3 original Sonori paintings with Louis Armstrong, Sammy Davis Jr., and Liberace is unbelievable. We really have a very hard time trying to figure out values on these, because obviously you have the Vegas collectability. You also have the fact that these are really notable celebrities. You also have the fact that they came from the museum. Then you have the Sabori effect of the artist, who's a really famous artist. So it's really it's going to be kind of a special placement, I think, in terms of how we do that. This is a piece really unbelievable. It's hard to even believe that this could be possible, but we've got a signed Louis Armstrong picture, caricature picture. But what we also have is what we know this was in Louis Armstrong's band. Okay, we know it. The trumpet is made in Paris. It is the maker is right. The period is correct. On the horn itself, and the provenance of this is it came from Jack Cortez, who is the owner of Las Vegas Magazine. So the period's perfect. It's late 1940s. And so we're going through the authentication piece. The fact that, it was part of the museum, the fact that Jack Cortez had it, the maker's right, the period's right, everything's right about this horn. And there's also, on the maker's mark, we also have an LA engraved on here too, which may or may not be, relevant, but we have heard that these mouthpieces were custom made. So you got LA 7C. I don't know if that, is coincidental or not, but we will be doing more investigation on this. Either way, if this trumpet is authenticated and we can find photos of him playing it, then you've got a 7-figure item here, because these just don't exist. We have unbelievably interesting memorabilia. Like, this is actually the gaming license for the El Cortez. Now, the El Rancho. The El Rancho burned down in 1980. It was never rebuilt. This was the first casino on the Strip. It's iconic. It's one of the most collected. We have literally their gaming licenses. What you're looking at in the photo here, in addition to some casino chips and some pixie sticks, which we don't use anymore, is the original dealer's apron that they would wear. We also have the dealer's uniform over there, probably 1970s vintage, but this is actually from the 1940s and 50s. Another spectacular piece is, this is a wood menu, the breakfast menu, and I believe it was like in 1949 to 51. This is a wood menu. There's only 2 or 3 known to exist, and we have 2 of them in the collection. I don't know how you value that. We actually, as a matter of fact, have thousands of vintage menus from Vegas, which are unbelievable. This came from a huge collection, a chef who is a major Las Vegas chef, world-renowned Michelin chef, who had a collection of menus. We haven't even opened the boxes, guys. The first one that we did look at was like the El Rancho's placeware. For example, we also have all of the El Rancho dinnerware. We have one-of-a-kind glassware that does not exist. You'll never find it. Got a water bottle, hand-painted. Again, this was at the El Rancho in the 40s, early 50s. Survived the fire. These items are indescribable. But from a historical perspective, they're just, I've never seen anything like it. This is one of my favorite. I've seen these sell in Heritage too. It's original, clothes for the National Probation Act. Example, just a small box of El Cortez ashtrays, matchbooks. These are all period. The postcards that were in the room, the dinner service. We actually, in that box is actually the silverware. That's a full silver sterling set from El Rancho. So again, you can see where we were a little overwhelmed in terms of being able to get through a lot of this. Oh, and by the way, look at this. This is an album by Wayne Newton, signed by a whole bunch of people. No idea who it is. Haven't had the time to look. All right, I'm going to cut it off. That was a little long on this segment. I'll get to the next one.